Welcome back. In today's video, we're exploring financial astrology and the key astrological events in January 2026 that may impact Bitcoin, XRP, altcoins, gold, silver, and the DXY. Please note, these predictions are based on traditional financial astrology principles and archetypal planetary symbolism. They should be used as a complement to technical and fundamental analysis, not as financial advice. Astrology maps energetic potentials, not certainties. And now let's dive in. January 2026, the Aquarius Influx. The dawn of a new vision. The year of 2026 opens with a deceptive mix of aggressive optimism and underlying instability. Early January is marked by high-velocity trades as Mars, Venus, and the Sun align in Aquarius, creating a short-term rally driven by technological innovation and speculative interest. However, this initial momentum is quickly challenged by difficult planetary aspects that signal overextension and volatility. As the month progresses, the concentration of energy in Aquarius suggests a period of abrupt systemic shifts, setting the stage for a profound transition. This environment creates a volatile interplay between technological advancement and systemic stress, where existing banking structures begin to buckle under the weight of hidden liabilities. Overall, January 2026 acts as a transformative purge defined by three central themes. First, the Aquarius stellium favors innovation and decentralization, bringing a strong focus to technology, decentralized systems, and futuristic ideas. Second, Neptune's entry into Aries injects a sense of boundless possibility and idealism, but also carries the risk of speculation and the erosion of value in traditional currencies. Finally, multiple Pluto aspects indicate intense power struggles and deep transformations concerning financial control and underlying market structures, exposing hidden agendas and driving sudden, powerful movements. Overall market sentiment, January 2026, Bitcoin, XRP, altcoins, DXY, gold and silver. The strong Capricorn energy in the first half of the month is grounding for Bitcoin, potentially reinforcing its role as a mature, institutional-grade asset. The shift to Aquarius in the second half could see Bitcoin's narrative shift towards its network and technological aspects. The volatile Mars-Pluto period could trigger a major move for BTC, likely in an upward direction given the bullish planetary setup. XRP, as a project often associated with institutional utility and regulatory battles, XRP could feel the positive effects of the Capricorn stellium in the first half, especially aspects involving Saturn. The move into Aquarius may highlight its network properties. The intense aspects late in the month could bring significant volatility and news-related price action. Different altcoins. The move of personal planets into Aquarius is extremely bullish for the broader altcoin market. This sign rules technology, innovation, community, and decentralized systems. Expect narratives around DeFi, Web3, and new technological protocols to gain traction. The period from January 17th onwards, especially the final week, could see a significant alt-season rally, fueled by the speculative energy of Neptune in Aries and the transformative power of Mars-Pluto. The dollar index, the major planets influencing the DXY are in key signs. Saturn in Pisces, bearish for the dollar, and Uranus in Taurus, disrupting traditional finance, create a backdrop of underlying weakness and volatility. The new moon in Capricorn, January 18th, could give the dollar a short-term boost, but the move of major planets into Aquarius, January 20th onwards, is likely to be unfavorable for the greenback, potentially leading to a breakout in risk assets like crypto. The Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, opposing Capricorn, also suggests continued pressure. Precious metals, gold and silver. The bullish setup for risk assets, particularly with the Saturn-Uranus trine, January 20th, and the intense Aquarian energy, may divert capital away from traditional safe havens like gold and silver, potentially causing a short-term dip or period of consolidation. However, the long-term planetary landscape, Uranus in Taurus, Pluto entering Aries, supports volatility in traditional markets, which could reignite interest in precious metals as a hedge. For the coming month, the speculative fervor in crypto may outshine the metals. January 1st to 15th, the Capricorn Powerhouse, consolidation and building pressure, neutral to bullish. The first half of January 2026 is dominated by an exceptional concentration of personal planets, Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, in the ambitious and structural sign of Capricorn. This period suggests a focus on fundamentals, institutional involvement, and overall market consolidation. The powerful conjunctions of Venus and Mars with the Sun in Capricorn, January 6th to 9th, could fuel significant institutional or corporate announcements and a buildup of market momentum. The series of Sun-Mercury-Venus-Mars conjunctions in Capricorn from January 6th onwards, coupled with positive aspects like Sun sextile Node and Venus sextile Saturn, January 15th, suggest a period of underlying strength and stability. This is a time for accumulation and building a solid base, with price action likely respecting key technical levels. While the US dollar index, DXY, maintains initial strength due to stable yield demand, a Mars-Jupiter opposition on January 10th warns of an overextended market. This period likely marks the bottom for precious metals as speculative excess in equities temporarily pressures gold, though underlying inflation fears provide a steady floor for XAU. January 16th to 22nd, the Aquarian Shift and Watershed moment, high volatility, potentially bullish. Mid to late January brings a period of extreme vulnerability as a significant influx of Aquarian energy coincides with hard aspects to Uranus. These alignments suggest a high probability of unexpected market shocks, such as flash crashes, cyber attacks on financial infrastructure, or rapid currency fluctuations. A pivotal shift occurs around mid-month. As the inner planets move into the innovative and community-oriented sign of Aquarius, starting January 17th with Venus, the market narrative is likely to change from foundational strength to technological speculation and network-driven dynamics. The second half of the month, particularly the last week, is highly charged and could see explosive, unpredictable price action. This is the most critical period. The Venus trine Uranus, January 15th, and Sun trine Uranus, January 17th, are precursors, introducing sudden flashes of innovation and potential price spikes. The new moon in Capricorn on January 18th is a powerful new beginning for long-term projects. The major shift comes as Venus, January 17th, then the Sun and Mercury, January 20th, and finally Mars, January 23rd, enter Aquarius. This could ignite a rally in altcoins and technologies focused on decentralization and community. The Saturn sextile Uranus aspect on January 20th is a key macro event, signaling a harmonious blend of stability and revolutionary technology, a very bullish configuration for an asset class like crypto. However, the simultaneous Venus and Sun conjunction with Pluto in Aquarius, January 20th to 23rd, adds a layer of intensity, suggesting that this move could be driven by transformative, perhaps even secretive, large-scale events. January 18th, 2026, new moon in Capricorn. This is a powerful and serious new moon, occurring at the very end of Capricorn, 28 degrees, placing it firmly in the domain of the 6th house for Capricorn rising charts and strongly influencing themes of work, service, structure, and systems. The astrological signature is overwhelmingly Earth and cardinal, specifically a Capricorn signature, 5x Earth plus 5x cardinal. This is the most grounded, practical, and action-oriented combination possible. Solar effect, institutions and leaders. The Sun in Capricorn represents the rulers, governments, central banks, like the Federal Reserve, major financial institutions, and corporate leaders. They are focused on consolidation, long-term strategy, regulation, and enforcing structure. The conjunction with Pluto, transformations, power, control, debt, indicates that these institutions are undergoing a deep, fundamental transformation. They are focused on power, control, and restructuring the very foundations of the financial system. The sextile to Saturn, discipline, rules, boundaries, reinforces a regulatory, disciplined, and cautious approach. The trine to Uranus, innovation, technology, suggests these old structures are attempting to integrate new, disruptive technologies, like digital assets, into their rigid frameworks. Lunar effect, retail psychology. The moon in Capricorn represents the collective psyche of traders, particularly institutional and large-cap focused players, but also the retail traders' attitude towards these structures. This is not an emotional, speculative crowd. The mood is serious, pragmatic, and focused on tangible results, security, and long-term value. There is a flight to safety mentality, favoring assets with proven track records and strong fundamentals over speculative gambles. The conjunction with Mars, action, energy, conflict, and Mercury, analysis, communication, means the retail collective mood is active, analytical, and potentially combative, but this action is channeled through a Capricorn lens, strategic, calculated, and goal-oriented. New moon overall market sentiment and direction. The influence is neutral to bearish for speculative assets, but potentially stabilizing for the overall market structure. The market is not in a risk-on mood. The dominant Capricorn energy seeks to build foundations and eliminate weakness. This can manifest as periods of low volatility and consolidation, or as sharp, disciplined sell-offs of overvalued assets. The focus is on quality, strength, and regulatory compliance. The bullish potential comes from the Uranus trine, which implies that any price movement will likely be driven by technological adoption or a sudden, structural shift from the rulers, Sun, Pluto, Saturn. Bitcoin is in a unique position. It is both a speculative asset and, increasingly, a structured, institutional one, the Capricorn narrative. The planetary energies will create a tension. The regulatory Pluto power focus from the rulers, institutional adoption, provides a floor, but the risk-averse collective mood, moon in Cap, will suppress explosive rallies. Expect consolidation and a battle between structural adoption and risk-off sentiment. It will likely hold its ground but struggle for a significant breakout during this 2-week phase. XRP is fundamentally tied to regulatory clarity and institutional use. With the Sun and Pluto conjunct in Capricorn, regulatory power plays and transformations, the theme of legal battles and systemic integration is paramount. However, the cautious, risk-off mood may stall progress or see investors shy away from assets directly in the crosshairs of institutional power. This is a period for legal maneuvering, not speculative expansion for XRP. The DXY is the ultimate Capricorn asset, a global reserve currency backed by the world's most powerful government and financial system, Sun in Capricorn. In a risk-off environment where the collective seeks safety, Moon in Capricorn, the US dollar is a primary beneficiary. The chart's Earth dominance further reinforces demand for hard, stable currency. This is a favorable 2-week period for the dollar's strength. Gold is the classic hard asset and store of value that thrives during periods of uncertainty and institutional transformation. The dominant Pluto, power, control, debt, and Saturn, fear, limitation energies, combined with a serious, risk-averse collective mood, Moon in Capricorn, create a perfect storm of sentiment for capital to flow into gold as a hedge against systemic risk and the unknowns of institutional change. Silver follows gold, but with more industrial sensitivity. The Capricorn energy also governs industry and technology. Earth equals material resources. While the risk-off mood will lift silver as a precious metal, its industrial demand, tied to the Uranus trine and technological innovation, may be subdued by the cautious economic outlook. It is bullish, but likely to lag behind gold's performance. The 2-week cycle and the 6-month outlook. The next 2 weeks, to full moon will see the themes of consolidation, regulatory focus, and a flight to quality solidify. The first quarter moon will likely present a challenge or a decision point where the market must choose between continuing the cautious Capricorn path or reacting to some disruptive news. The ultimate outcome of this 2-week cycle will be revealed at the full moon in Leo Aquarius axis, which will highlight themes of speculation versus regulation, individual creativity versus collective systems, and the public's reaction to the power plays initiated now. 6-month cycle. To full moon in Cancer. This new moon in Capricorn initiates a 6-month cycle focused on structural transformation in finance. The first half, until mid-July 2026, will be dominated by Capricorn themes, new regulations being drafted and implemented, the consolidation of power by major institutions, a focus on debt and leverage, and a generally disciplined market environment. The corresponding full moon will be in Cancer, the sign opposite Capricorn. This full moon will bring these themes to a head, likely manifesting as a public or collective reaction, Cancer, to the regulations imposed, Capricorn. A crisis in housing or national security, Cancer, that forces a governmental structural response, Capricorn. The emotional culmination of the power struggles, Pluto, initiated in January. A shift in market sentiment from the serious and structured, Capricorn, to the more emotionally reactive and public-focused, Cancer. In essence, this new moon sets the stage for a 6-month period where the old financial guard, Capricorn Pluto, restructures the system to incorporate new technologies, Uranus, while the collective mood remains cautious and pragmatic. The peak of this cycle will reveal how these top-down structural changes have emotionally and publicly landed by July 2026. January 26, 2026, Neptune enters Aries. This is a monumental ingress, marking the beginning of a new 164-year cycle. Neptune represents dissolution, illusion, debt, and global collective consciousness. Its entry into fiery, pioneering Aries suggests a forceful and potentially aggressive unraveling of illusions, a breakdown of existing global financial frameworks, and a clash between utopian ideals and harsh realities. This often correlates with periods of significant inflation-deflation spirals, sovereign debt crises, or the exposure of systemic fraud. After 14 years in its home sign of Pisces, Neptune moves into the fiery, impulsive sign of Aries. The last time this occurred was from 1861 to 1875, a period that included the American Civil War, the rise of nationalism in Europe, and the birth of idealistic but militant movements. This transit can inflame holy wars, ideological extremism, and a collective search for saviors, but it can also inspire spiritual pioneering and courageous artistic movements. The shadow side involves mass delusion, susceptibility to propaganda, and crises related to new, hard-to-contain epidemics or chemical-biological warfare. Neptune, representing dissolution, illusion, debt, and liquidity, entering pioneering and often impulsive Aries indicates a period where old financial illusions dissolve and new, potentially unrealistic or aggressive financial initiatives emerge. This ingress can bring a fog of war to new economic beginnings or a sudden inflation-deflation shock. January 23 to 31st, Pluto-Mars Conjunction in Aquarius. January 27th. The apex of volatility and transformation. Highly volatile, bullish-leaning period. The final days of January are exceptionally potent. The Mars conjunction Pluto in Aquarius on January 27 is the defining aspect. While professional sentiment hovers near neutral, the brutal Mars-Pluto conjunction on January 27 serves as a precursor to deeper structural changes. Mars-Pluto aspects are associated with immense, raw power, sudden force, and transformation. This intense alignment points toward power plays and a potential capitulation event, setting a significant local low. In the crypto market, this can manifest as massive volume spikes, violent price swings, and decisive breakouts. While this can fuel a powerful bull run, it also carries the risk of extreme volatility. The market is highly sensitive to news and sentiment. Altcoins initially may remain choppy as investors grapple with the aftermath of impulsive price swings and painful lessons in risk management. January 28, 2026, FOMC interest rate decision and press conference. Revolution and illusion. The astrological landscape. The chart for this event is characterized by a massive concentration of planets in Aquarius, a revolutionary T-square configuration involving Uranus, and the final, fateful conjunction of Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. This combination suggests a pivotal moment where established structures meet radical change, leading to a potentially volatile but ultimately transformative outcome for financial markets. The defining feature of this chart is the stellium, a grouping of 3 or more planets, in Aquarius occupying the 7th house of partnerships, agreements, and open enemies. With the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Pluto all in this sign, the theme is one of radical innovation, technological disruption, and the breaking of old paradigms. Pluto's presence here signifies a deep, structural transformation of the financial system, while Mars conjunct Pluto suggests intense, forceful action and potential power struggles. Simultaneously, we have a powerful square involving Uranus in Taurus in the 10th house of government and public reputation, squaring the Aquarius stellium. This is the engine of the event. The Fed, 10th house, is under immense pressure to adapt to revolutionary forces, Uranus, that are disrupting the very nature of value and assets, Taurus. Adding to this, we have the final, closing conjunction of Saturn and Neptune in Pisces in the 8th house of debt, derivatives, and other people's money. This represents a moment of a structured disillusionment, where hard reality, Saturn, collides with dissolved boundaries, illusions, or crises, Neptune. Bitcoin and XRP, the Aries paradox. Altcoins, riding the wave of speculation. For digital assets, this chart presents a paradox. The massive Aquarian stellium in the 7th house is incredibly bullish for the concept of decentralized technology, peer-to-peer finance, and the crypto industry as a whole. This is the ideal environment where Bitcoin and XRP thrive. However, the market's reaction will likely be dictated by the immediate risk sentiment. The primary risk-on risk-off signal comes from the Uranus-Aquarius square. If the Fed's language is perceived as cautious, restrictive, or behind the curve on the technological revolution, the resulting market disappointment and fear, square aspect, could trigger a sharp, volatile sell-off in risk assets, including crypto. In this scenario, the short-term outlook is bearish, as the hard reality of the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in the 8th house could trigger a deleveraging event. However, any sell-off would be viewed as a buying opportunity for long-term believers, as the underlying Aquarian energy is fundamentally supportive of the crypto thesis. Therefore, the reaction could be highly volatile, with a potential of V-shaped recovery if the initial dip is bought. Altcoins, being higher beta assets than Bitcoin, are even more sensitive to the speculative fervor or fear present in the market. The Aquarius stellium, particularly Venus and Mercury, is a potent combination for speculative mania and ideas about new forms of value. This is bullish for narrative-driven altcoins and projects in the AI, tech, and social finance sectors. However, the Moon square to the North Node and its trine to the Venus-Mercury conjunction suggests that market sentiment, Moon, will be at odds with the fated path, North Node, leading to emotional decisions and potential overenthusiasm. If the risk-off scenario from the Uranus square materializes, altcoins would be hit the hardest and fastest. The outlook for altcoins is therefore neutral to bearish in the short term, but extremely bullish in the medium term if the Fed's decision ultimately validates the technological shift that the Aquarian stellium represents. DXY US Dollar Index, the battleground of value. The DXY is at the center of this chart's conflict. Uranus in Taurus in the 10th house of government directly squares the Aquarius stellium, which rules the 7th house of foreign exchange. The 7th house represents the other. This setup screams of a crisis in the dollar's role as the world's reserve currency. The Fed is caught between its traditional role, Saturn-Neptune in Pisces, 8th house, suggesting a potential EQE infinity or monetary illusion, and the radical pressure to innovate, Uranus-Aquarius. The immediate reaction in the DXY will depend on the Fed's tone. A hawkish, sound money stance would likely cause a DXY rally, which would be bearish for gold and crypto. However, a dovish tone or any hint of a new monetary tool could be interpreted as dollar weakness. Given the strong Aquarian energy of a something new, the most probable outcome is bearish for the DXY in the medium term, as the world moves toward a more technologically driven, multipolar financial system, but it may see short-term volatility around the announcement. Gold and silver, the safe haven conundrum. Gold and silver traditionally thrive in an environment of monetary uncertainty and low real interest rates, conditions described by the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Pisces in the 8th house. This is the money printing, or bailout signature, which is fundamentally bullish for precious metals. However, the massive Aquarian-Uranian energy complicates this. In a mania focused on technological assets like crypto and AI, capital can flow out of traditional safe havens like gold and into these newer, higher growth narratives. Therefore, the outcome is split. In a risk-off scenario caused by the Uranus square, we would likely see a flight to safety that benefits gold and silver, bullish. But in a risk-on scenario where the Aquarian energy dominates, metals could temporarily underperform. The chart suggests that the forces of monetary uncertainty, Saturn-Neptune, will ultimately win out, making the long-term outlook for gold and silver bullish, but with potential for initial volatility. Overall outlook, bearish volatility preceding a bullish transformation. While the long-term, transformative energy of the Aquarian stellium is fundamentally bullish for innovation, crypto, tech, and the inflationary forces of Saturn-Neptune are bullish for hard assets, gold, the immediate short-term market reaction is likely to be bearish or highly volatile. The Uranus-Aquarius square is a classic shock to the system aspect, and the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in the 8th house points to a risk of deleveraging or a crisis in the credit markets. Expect a classic sell the news event, with markets reacting nervously to the Fed's language. A brief sell-off in risk assets could precede a major up-only leg as the world digests the profound changes signified by this powerful astrological alignment. This concludes our crypto market financial astrology analysis. Please like and share this video. Thank you for watching and see you next time.